Inland Sports.
On the Inland Sports Show, fresh off a big road win against Linfield Christian, it's the head coach of the Vista Murrieta boys basketball team, Daniel Carlin. And coach, big win on the road down there in Temecula against a very good Lions team. What stood out to you about that victory for your Broncos?
Yeah, I think we've just been trying to build every game. Linfield is kind of the last few years been a little bit of an unofficial rivalry. Obviously not a league team, but they've given us two pretty good beatings over the last 3 years. We bumped them out of the playoffs a couple of years back. We got them last year. And so it was nice to go down there, obviously, to their place and get one and have the team keep moving forward.
Another big one coming up on Friday, right before Christmas, going up against Etiwanda, who traditionally is another one of the top programs in the Inland Empire. What did you like as a team that you guys did well against Linfield Christian that you hope carries over into this game against the Eagles?
Yeah, I think we did for probably about 75-80% of the game, I think we did a really good job of following the scout. We had some breakdowns in the first half and into the game, which kind of pulled it a little bit closer than we probably wanted. But knowing that, we spent some time, we looked at some film, we did our ran-throughs practice, and that when they, threw certain traps at us, certain zones at us, we were able to execute it, that the guys had a pretty good idea about personnel. We talked about as we get to whether it's the good teams in league, playoff teams, we're going to have to execute those for the entire game. And so it was a step forward for us. And so just continuing against Etiwanda, trying to, really stick to the game plan, know the scout, know the personnel, and just try to keep being, who we're trying to get to. Etiwanda is obviously a great team. And so we're excited about that matchup and the challenge that we get. And it's kind of one of the games we've got circled on our calendar, just knowing that it's guaranteed to be a high quality opponent. And so, I know all the coaches and all the boys are looking forward to Friday.
So, Coach, playing these really good teams in non-league action, is it part of I hate to use it as a cliche, but part of the process, part of the building up to get to Southwestern League play? Because we know Temecula Valley, Murrieta Valley, Great Oak, every single night you guys take the floor in Southwestern League play, it's going to be a battle. There's a lot of good teams, a lot of good coaches. So non-league, is that important to you guys so you kind of feel like you're peaking at the right time?
Yeah, I think we got to have those games to kind of know where we're at. Tournaments, we try to get into good tournaments and hopefully get some good games, but it's sometimes it's hit and miss. You got to rely on, what division they're going to put you in or, what the matchups are going to be like. And so anytime you can get these singles, obviously we had Ranch Cucamonga early. We didn't have Lawrence Sanford for that one. So again, I think had we had him available, maybe that one's a bit closer. Obviously Etiwanda, traditionally being one of the top teams in our area, that if we can get teams like that are the same caliber or perhaps better than some of the top league teams, you have to actually see where you're at because, we've got a good group and we've played some teams that are solid and we've had some big wins. But as far as, those other teams we talk about, we're going to be ready for like our first 3 games in league is Temecula Valley, Great Oak, and then Murrieta Valley. So there's nothing easy, and we've probably maybe, I don't know if I would say peaked too early the last couple of years, or just maybe have enjoyed our early success too much and then have got to league and have kind of gotten a bit of a rude awakening at certain points. And so we've been really intentional this year about building for January, building for February, and trying to make sure that our, everything is a building block along the way to getting to those big goals that we're trying to achieve.
All right, Coach, we'll stay on the topic of non-league basketball and early season tournaments. I think I got the name right. Murrieta Mania. I think I got it right. So you guys were hosting. You had, I think, more than one team from Australia. Is that correct?
We had one team from Australia, and then I had a separate team that came out right afterwards and played us. So we did play 2 Australians back-to-back. One was in tournament, one was out of tournament.
So if people are listening to you and they're like, hey, he's not from around here. So how did that all come together, getting teams from Australia to come out here to the Inland Empire and Vista Murrieta specifically to play your Broncos?
Yeah, well, what's fun, obviously I'm Australian. And what's funny is I think everyone automatically assumes like, oh, these just must be all my like friends from back home that are coming over to play. But they both ended up being fairly random. But then there were actually some more connections, particularly the second game against St. Ignatius. We just post our games on CIF like everyone else does. And there's a couple of Australian tour groups that just kind of reached out to us and said, hey, like we need some games. The St. Ignatius team that we played last week, it was funny. The guy that reached out to me, he didn't realize it was me at the start, but I actually did a tour with him over to the States in 2011. And then it turned out that when they got over, that their head coach, who was an Australian, I actually played against in the NBL in Australia, and he was also a teammate of Nick Quick, my assistant coach at UCSB. So we kind of realized that, oh, maybe there are all these connections, but it was just a little bit random. In fact, one of the organizers, when he emailed me initially, he was asking, say, hey, we're his team from Australia, you want to come out, get some games? And like I do, I kind of just call everyone mate. And so I said, hey, mate, yeah, that'd be great. We'd love to have you. We still got some spots. And I think he thought, because he was Australian, that I was just calling him mate. And so we had kind of an awkward email interaction. But once I explained to him, I was like, no, I'm actually Australian. I just happen to, be out in Murrieta. It was a cool connection. So it was fun to hang out with some Aussies, get a little bit of taste of home the last couple of weeks.
That's amazing. That's a great story. Coach, maybe you're familiar with David Patrick. He was the head coach at UC Riverside for a while. He's from, obviously, Australia. I know CBU's had a pipeline of guys from that part of the world as well, including New Zealand down there. Where would you say the level of basketball is there? You mentioned the NBL. I mean, that's a great level of basketball. I mean, that's a great professional league. But even maybe like at the high school level, going up into university, we've had great players go through CBU. I've seen it firsthand. Is Australia and US pretty comparable? Are they pretty close? I mean, like the competition of the high school teams that came out to your, to play your Broncos, was it pretty even, or how would you kind of gauge that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of quality basketballers in Australia. There's obviously some real kind of high level schools and schools that focus really on producing that. I think we had two pretty good teams out here. St. Ignatius played us a little bit closer than Knox Grammar did, but Knox Grammar, their big kind of unfortunately got sick throughout the week, so not quite as healthy. But yeah, I mean, I think that the teams we played, they're a good Southern California high school team. Mm-hmm. They're probably not the same levels as those top, the Roosevelts or the St. John Boscos, sure, and those type of levels, but there's not as many players to go around, but there's definitely some good teams that when they come out here, it's good comp. And it's funny just kind of looking around, it seems like there are actually a lot of Australian games that were getting played throughout the last couple of weeks. And so I'm sure a lot of coaches did get to see some good Aussie basketball.
Yeah, maybe while these teams are out here, they're getting recruited, some of these Australian kids to come play out here in the States.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big piece of it. And yeah, to get that exposure, and there are definitely some kids that are worth it. And then it's sometimes it can be a little bit of a blessing and a curse. I think that Australian basketball, it's people are pretty hot on it, or have been probably the last decade or so. And so when you're all the way over the other side of the world, if you have some good film, people just kind of go like, all right, well, they must be good. Obviously, when you see someone in person, you can either kind of confirm or deny that. But they had some great guys. Knox had a 6'5", 6'6" point guard that should definitely be a college basketball player. St. Ignatius had a lot of great kids that were, worthy of playing somewhere out here. So a lot of good kids. They play hard. I think they, try to play the right way. So yeah, definitely great exposure for them, as well as just the experience of making the trip to the other side of the world.
Mm-hmm. Coach, one question, but kind of two parts to it is, growing up, who are some basketball players that you looked up to? I don't know if they're Aussies, Andrew Bogut, Patty Mills, come to mind. And also the second part of the question is, like, who are some of your coaching influences? Who are some of the guys at the coaching level that's had an impact on the way that you coach now?
Yeah, my first ever basketball jersey was a Andrew Bogut Milwaukee Bucks jersey. And so I think, being an Aussie that went number one in the draft, obviously you follow him. Patty Mills, I think that when he's retired from basketball, probably should be the Prime Minister of Australia. It's hard to find a more popular guy, and just someone that I think if you ask me, like, who represents Australia well, just on a global stage. I think that he embodies everything that we want to be about as a country. And so I love him. I mean, my favorite player of all time is Carmelo Anthony. And so, just I think kind of 2003 was when I really got into the NBA and watching that draft class, and watching him on the Nuggets and the Knicks was always something that I enjoyed attempting to emulate. I was a bit more of a big than the small forward that he was, but I had a lot of fun watching him. As far as the coaching stuff, I mean, I was fortunate to have a bunch of really good coaches just throughout my entire career. And so I think that's a part of why I wanted to be able to give back. John Moore, who is my coach at Westmont, that's now the assistant coach at USD, phenomenal coach, phenomenal relationship that I had with him. And in terms of someone that was obviously a basketball guy at a higher level, but I think really just valued people and the relationships, that was something that, made me really want to pursue it. I had a bunch of great coaches back home. I mean, not a name that anyone's going to know here, but Scott Whitmore coached me for many years back in Australia. And again, just as a guy that cared, that when I first kind of came in for a kind of semi-professional experience, he was the head coach at the club. And he was really focused on bringing in a lot of good older guys to the club. So, I mean, his coaching, but also the guys he brought in to help mentor me. I don't think my basketball journey would have been anything alike had it not been for him. Obviously, there's all the college guys that you try to watch and pick their brains and see different things. And so whether it's you trying to read about Coach K and what he was doing at Duke or UCLA, Eric Musselman is a guy that I've kind of been following the last few years at Arkansas, and then obviously now over at USC and a bit more local. So, I think now being on the other side of playing, I probably watch more for the coaching and the kind of the tactics than I do just kind of individual player performances. But yeah, no, I mean, John Moore is a huge influence. And then just, there's too many to name that really contributed to why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
And finally, Coach, man, nobody has more fun on social media than you guys. So when you guys pick up a win, we know about it. I think I don't know if I've talked about this, but we've messaged about it before, about high school basketball is supposed to be fun, and you guys make it fun on social media, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think a part of it, I mean, the kids enjoy it, whether it's the guys on our team or just our student body. It's always fun to just get people excited about it. I've had a couple of coaches tell me, hey, I really hope we beat you because I don't want to end up on one of these memes. But no, it's fun. We try to have a good time with it. I think just the social media part of it, it's kind of a part of the full experience that just is sports right now. And so we get to have a good laugh with it.
Well, I'll say this. Every team that's relevant out there has a social media account. Everyone's posting, their graphics and their video and pictures and stuff. But you guys really set yourself apart because you have fun with it. And I think at least, the high school kids probably love it. I love it too, but I'm sure the high school kids love it. So.
Yeah, that's the goal. As long as they love it, and if it gets kids talking and coming out to the games and supporting us, then ultimately that's the best piece of it.
Well, Coach, congrats on the strong start. Big win again on the road at Linfield Christian. You got another road game coming up against Etowanda, and before you know it, we'll be in the new year, Southwestern League play, and that's going to be some real battles down there. So, Coach, thank you for jumping on the Inland Sports Show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
That's Daniel Carlin, the head basketball coach for your Vista Murrieta Broncos. Inland Sports.